Hey everyone, welcome back to Blurred Lines, Crime, Conspiracy, and the Truth Behind the Gossip. I'm your host, Ashley or Ashtootrippy, and today is our updates podcast. So, welcome back, y'all. Let's get to it. Now, before we start this episode, I just want to set a fair warning that some of my episodes, as far as updates and some deep dives I go into, are going to be a little explicit, involving murders as well as a lot of other situations that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised here, guys, but welcome back, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far. I know you guys really, a lot of people really like these updates podcasts. I'm going to be doing them every other week. So every other Thursday, we will have an updates podcast. And then on Fridays, we have deep dives. Now, this coming Friday, I haven't really looked at any cases I want to deep dive. If I do end up doing an episode, it may be a shorter one. So just be forewarned. Now, before we get into the cases today, I just want to remind you guys, if you or somebody you know does any kind of music and stuff like that, please contact me. Right now, I can't afford to pay anyone to make me some music, but I will shout you out on all of the platforms for music. I just really appreciate it. So if you or someone you know has the ability to create like an intro and maybe an exit sound for me, I would truly appreciate it. And later on down the line, I may need more, just depending on how I expand. Just send me a message on any platform, DM me, or you can send me an email, ashtootrippy@gmail.com. And you can also send an email there if you have any case suggestions or want me to speak out on something. I'm more than happy to take any kind of case suggestions. Let's get into it today, y'all. So the first thing we are going to be getting into today is going to be the murder of the Mexican influencer Valeria Marquez. Now, if you guys are following me on my TikTok, Ashtootrippy, I have been following this case since the day after it happened. This case is very interesting, very intriguing to me, and I have some stuff to say about it. But for those of you that have not heard about this is Valeria Marquez. She was a Mexican influencer who lived in Jalisco, Mexico, and she was in the middle of a TikTok live stream when she was delivered, quote unquote, a package or gift, and she was shot 3 times and ended up dying on camera. And we're gonna go over this all. So this murder took place on Tuesday, May 13th. It was a horrific shooting, and it's sent shockwaves not only through Mexico, but this is worldwide. I have people on my TikTok commenting that they've seen it in the UK, that they've seen it in Spain, different countries everywhere. So this has gone worldwide. Now, Valeria was gunned down in her place of work. She owned a salon called Blossom, and it seemed like the salon catered to hair, nails, esthetician, like facials and things like that, waxing, stuff like that, any girly things that was going on. And this was in the city of Zapan, that is in Jalisco, Mexico. She was live streaming. She has 105,000 TikTok followers at that time of her live stream. She had around 7,000 people in her live when she was live. Let's get into the before of this first, okay? So essentially, Erica is a co-worker that worked in the salon doing nails. Erica contacted Valeria and stated, there's a guy and he tried to deliver something, but he said he wouldn't leave it with me because it's expensive and that he would come back later. So maybe you should come down. I told him you would be here within the next hour or two. Valeria goes down to her salon, Blossom, and she starts going live there. It seems like that's the reason she went there, was to wait for this quote unquote present, for the person to bring it to her. And this whole time she's live streaming, she's basically, who was it? Like asking the coworker Erica questions about the man that came. Like, was it a delivery man, or did it seem to be like an escort for something, like somebody like a telegram or whatever, asking her like, was it in a bag, was it in a black bag, like how big could it have been, trying to figure out what's going on. She does allude during the live stream as well that she's gonna check the cameras and stuff, but never does, and it seems like she can check them from her phone. I think if she would have checked those cameras, she would have known that either somebody didn't go, or she would have seen the person and be able to either one, identify, or two, be like, maybe this isn't something I even want to receive. Anyway, she stays throughout the live broadcast. She's basically stating that maybe she should just go. You know, it's been, at this point, from what I've gathered, she stays there for a good 2 to 3 hours before somebody actually shows up. What ends up happening is her friend Vivian, who is one of her very best friends, you can see social media posts between them, is texting her throughout this time, and Valeria is basically vocalizing like what she's saying and what she's thinking. And this whole time Vivian sends her not only a Starbucks drink, but then sends her like a stuffed pig, which I hear is a sign of a pig in Mexico is kind of like the sign for a hitman or something like that. Somebody commented me that, but I have noticed in her previous posts and live streams that she liked pigs. This was something Valeria was into. She had them on her bed, in her room, and stuff like that. So I don't think that was something to look into a little bit. But her friend Vivian, was basically on the phone with her and sending her stuff to keep her there. So that's a little suspicious to me. And throughout this live too, it's very ominous that she didn't use her intuition, because she sits there and she basically states like, oh my god, what if it's somebody tried to kill me? Now, she has stated, people have brought up in other social media posts, she does have a ex-boyfriend that is linked to the cartel, allegedly. This is not something the cops have come out and said. Any investigators or governors or presidents of Mexico have said that this is evidence. This is just speculation that's going around online from reviewing Valeria's previous posts on social media. And it is stated that she said before, if anything had ever happened to her, it was the ex-boyfriend. Now, a lot of people are speculating that it has a lot to do with not only her friend Vivian, who was sending her gifts to stay there, but also the friend Erica, who essentially called her and said, hey, there's a delivery guy, you need to come down here. I told him you'd be here in an hour so he can deliver this package to you. Which it sounds very fishy. Now, updates that we have had from Mexico is that Erica has been spoken to by the police with her lawyer present, and they have released a statement basically stating that Erica is not a suspect and Erica was not a friend of Valeria. She was simply a coworker, which understandable, but at the same time a little fishy, considering that they do have photos on Valeria's social media platforms of them going out together, and when they were live they were talking very friendly, like they do have a friendship, and I'm pretty sure Valeria probably would have considered her a friend. But nonetheless, her lawyer states for her that they were not friends. She simply worked at the salon doing nails. Stated that she doesn't appreciate people villainizing her and accusing her of something she didn't do, that this misinformation needs to stop in order for the correct killers to be placed under arrest. Now, I'm sure from what I've heard from people commenting that actually live in this area, they state that as far as the forensics for like technology, like looking at phone records and text messages and things like that, is few and far between, because there's not too many agents that can do it. So assuming that the phone records, again, assuming that the phone records are not yet obtained and listened to, how can they exclude her? Don't know. But she claims that she had no part in this and that this was something very horrific. Now, I want to kind of let you guys know this also was the girl that was in the salon with her at the time of this shooting. It's supposed that she was behind the front desk at the time. The shooter did not go after her. 11 seconds after Valeria was the first shot was done to Valeria. 11 seconds, Erica went and stopped the live stream on her phone. So it's all very suspicious to me, I just believe. Now, let's get into the shooting a little bit. Now, Valeria was on live, like I stated. She mutes the live. Before she mutes the live, we hear the person ask if she is Valeria. She says yes. Then it's muted, and we don't hear anything. The only thing we see is kind of just her eyes in a curious manner, and then we just see her recoil from a shot that looks like it went through her chest, and then her head goes down and 2 more shots go through the top of her head. It's a few seconds, and then she falls over on the desk in front of her, because where she is sitting, she's kind of to the side because it is a desk where people do nails. That's where she's sitting at. And then of course we don't hear anything from this because it is muted. Again, 11 seconds after this takes place, the friend or co-worker Erica goes and shuts off the live stream, and we see her face when she does this. It does not look shocked, it does not look horrified, it just looks like she expected it to happen, and that's where a lot of the speculation is coming from. Now, after this took place and the authorities arrived, Erica was seen outside of the salon, just basically standing with the crowd. She wasn't talking to police, she wasn't trying to even act sad, she was just standing with the rest of the crowd. There's also been speculations that she had her phone after this took place. That is not the case. It has not been proved. Now, Valeria had 2 phones, one she was live streaming on and one she was texting on. The one she was live streaming on had a pink case, and they're arguing that the phone that Erica was on also had a pink case, but sometimes girls have the same cases. It's not abnormal, especially if they were friends, in my opinion, because I believe they were. And people are saying she deleted her TikTok. She did not delete her TikTok. TikTok deletes accounts when they have to do with a active investigation. So it's not that they delete it, they deactivate it so they can get all of the data from there to process the crime. The big thing that's bothering me about the crime is the way the Mexican authorities actually investigate things, because the salon itself, and I've heard that it has been processed now, but we're going on 6 days since she's been murdered, right? Well, longer, 8 days since she's been murdered. That salon was not processed. I heard that it was possibly processed yesterday or the day prior. Now, I'm only speaking on things that I know here in the United States. And normally the way investigations start is you have the body, and then you process the crime scene, you process the body. And this all takes time. This is within the first week. Now, I do know it is the culture there as well, that they like to bury their dead within the first 48 hours. Which is completely understandable. Supposedly she was buried with the bullets still in her body, some of them. So that's very concerning to me. Everybody's like, well, it's understandable because everything was on camera. No, everything wasn't on camera. In order to convict someone in any country, you need evidence to do that. You're innocent until proven guilty in most of the countries around the world. So I just don't understand that. That's kind of what's frustrating me at this time. I don't know. It's just iffy to me, and I'm just made to question everything, and of course. So we will go ahead and keep an eye out on this case. I will be continuing to cover it on my TikTok page, Ashtootrippy. If you guys have heard about it, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what you guys think. We've had healthy debates over on my TikTok page, so if you guys want to go over there and join, you're more than welcome to. But it's just very tragic. Now, I did want to touch a little bit on as well that there was, the very next day after Valeria's life was taken, there was also a Colombian influencer that was taken as well. She was shot expecting or getting a delivery from an unknown person. So be careful, use your instincts. Let's stop this violence. It's just so much, like, people become so obsessed with things, and it's kind of crazy. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is actually something I've talked about in the Updates podcast for Blurred Lines before. It's the Pontiac mom that abandoned her children for about 4 or 5 years. So her children were living by themselves for about that time. And I don't know if you guys remember this. She was basically like taking them food, and they were found in deplorable conditions, including feces, tons of trash. Like it was just very deplorable. Basically, it looks like this mom will be going to trial. The 34-year-old Kelly Bryant was in court last Friday, and this was a preliminary examination for her. The evidence and more results in the judge ultimately sending Bryant to trial on 3 counts of first-degree child abuse and 3 counts of welfare fraud. So basically, while she had these 3 children, she was also receiving welfare, which obviously she was not using on the children, as eyewitnesses have stated that they did see some delivery people go by, but usually they would only have like one bag dropping off maybe a bread or even just like a little Caesar's pizza every now and then. But it's crazy. So it was 3 children. The oldest was a boy who was 15. The other 2 were females. They were found abandoned, living in not only mold but feces and squalor. Now, not only was the home covered in feces and urine and all of this other deplorable stuff, but also the children were as well. Now, a lot of people talked, the crime scene investigators that first went in talked and everything like that. This was very eventful. Now, the children ages are 12, 13, and 15. They are now currently in the custody of their grandfather, I believe. When the Oakland County Sheriff's detectives went in, they stated, "I'd never smelt a home that smelled that bad without a decomposing body present." So they did state that it did smell like there was decomposition, just because of the simple sheer fact of all of the trash and feces. She has been in prison or in jail for 3 months, and we seen her for the first time within that time physically, and she was basically really giddy in the courtroom. It was kind of disturbing to watch. I wouldn't recommend watching any of that. Now, some stuff has come out that they found her kids hiding in a bathtub full of feces. Now, the 2 little girls allegedly were hiding in that bathtub. The little boy came out with his hands up like he was in trouble, and it seemed like the children didn't really even know at the police station why this was taking place. They stated that the young girl's hair was extremely matted, and fingernails and toenails were so long that, especially on their feet, they could barely walk. The 2 little girls were hunched over when they came out of the bathroom, and they seemed very weak. It was very hard for them to even hold their own bodies up, which suggests very much malnourishment. Detectives say that Kelly Bryant, the mother, was always living within walking distance of the children she abandoned. She hadn't touched them or given them hygiene products for years, and she would have food dropped off to them about once a week. Again, that food being a loaf of bread or just a pizza for the whole week. According to detectives, Bryant's children were found in soiled clothes, hunched over, with toenails several inches long. The 2 youngest girls started their menstrual cycles in the home and were only given pads once. You heard that right. They were only given those amenities one time. Bryant admitted to telling the children to never leave or open the front door, purposefully instilling a deep fear in them. So again, these children, when they were taken in, they were extremely fearful. And they, like I said, they didn't even realize like how horrible this was. Now, I also want to add that it has been discovered that the oldest child, the son who was 15, did also have a cell phone that Bryant would text her on. And it didn't seem like they looked over the text messages. There was never any like, how are you? Are you hungry? What are you doing? I love you. Good night. Anything like that. The only thing that was ever corresponded was the little boy would text her and be like, we need food. And she would then give him, whatever she decided she wanted to give them for that week or month or whatever. That's very sad to think that these kids never really knew the love or the kindness. Now, the mom in the little boy's phone was put under the world's greatest mom. In the mom's phone, Kelly Bryant's phone, phone, the phone number was stored under child number 1 or my child number 1. That's just wild to me. I don't know. It's just crazy. So we're going to keep an eye on this case. It is going to trial as of right now. If you guys don't know, Kelly Bryant, she was put on a really high bond amount at first, and they did go ahead and decrease that bond amount. The judge did to $50,000. However, Kelly still could not pay that, so she still remains in jail, and it seems like that's where she will remain until her trial. Nice to hear that the kids are with their grandfather, and he has spoken out and stated that he plans on giving them everything that they never experienced for these past 4 to 5 years, and he wants to take them on vacation. And it seems like they are thriving, essentially, in my opinion. We'll keep an eye on that one. Now, I wanted to talk about this one because I actually watched this show recently. It's basically the woman who confronts her cannibal father for murdering her stepmother, and she basically has a reunion with him. It's Evil Lives Here, The Killer Speaks. If you guys haven't seen that, it is streaming on Max. New episodes of Evil Lives Here, The Killer Speaks airs Sunday, 9 p.m. on ID, and this episode is called My Father, the Cannibal. And this woman is basically speaking out against it, and I never heard about this case. For the first time in 4 years, Jamie Lee Arrow was ready to sit face to face with her father, the Skara cannibal. It was October 2024, and the 23-year-old, now a mother to 2 young children, was hoping to reunite with the man she knew and loved. So this is a story of basically the daughter. She couldn't kind of wrap her head around. If you guys know, when we talk about Melissa G. Moore, this is a little bit similar to that. She couldn't wrap her head around that her dad was so loving to her, but then ended up killing his fiance or girlfriend and essentially admitting to eating parts of her. So she basically admits to, her father, gaining more of a relationship with her father after this. And it's just very interesting as to the aspects of things that went on. Now, just a little background. In 2010, Johnson, who was 46, brutally killed his girlfriend, Helle Christensen, who was 40, in his Skara, Sweden home. So this was in Sweden. According to the episode, he slit Christensen's throat, decapitating her, and then ate parts of her remains. And Arrow, the daughter, was 9 at the time that this had happened. And she recalled that she accidentally seen newspapers and she didn't know what the word cannibal meant. But when she was 13, she read some articles and then she understood what the word meant. But by then, her dad had her wrapped around his finger, and he made himself the good person and his girlfriend was the villain. He essentially brainwashed her. So essentially, she states that her father gave her a little bit of a dark side, would start telling her things. She states it was like demons and the devil were our reality when she was with her father, and she said that it was normal for her, and she kept it inside of her a lot of the time growing up. So she also explains how at 9 years old she did meet Christensen, who was her father's new girlfriend, who ended up taking her life. And she said that she pretty much delved into her. She said that she was a beautiful soul. She loved the way she did her makeup. She loved a lot of things about her. She spent time with her and things like that. And she said that she really loved him and she loved her, and she saw the love that she had for her father. And it was just really hard for her to grasp the fact that, her father did this. Now, in the episode, she describes how Christensen and Johnson frequently fought violently. She said that she witnessed their brawls and would worry that something bad might happen. So again, we're talking about a 9-year-old girl witnessing domestic violence. So in 2011, Johnson was convicted of Christensen's murder. The court placed him in a psychiatric hospital, and over the years, his daughter spiraled into depression and anxiety, leading to a crippling drug addiction. During that time, she stayed in touch with her father. When she opened up to him about being teased at school, he suggested using voodoo dolls to punish her bullies. And this is what was revealed in the episode. So I do highly encourage you guys go watch this episode. But basically, she falls kind of into his pattern of things. It seems like she starts visiting him at the psychiatric home more and starts kind of getting into her head, uses her drug drug addiction against her a lot of the time. So I definitely recommend you guys go watch it again. The episode's called My Father the Cannibal. It's now streaming on HBO Max. There is new episodes of Evil Lives Here, The Killer Speaks, aired on Sundays at 9 p.m. on ID channel. I highly encourage you watch that, about Jamie Lee Arrow, as she shares her journey of how she was brainwashed, her healing, talking to her father. So definitely go check that out. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about here is the Casanova killer. I don't know if you guys remember that, but he was actually executed decades after claiming that he killed over 70 victims. So Glenn Rogers, who was dubbed the Casanova killer, was put to death, and it looks like this happened on Thursday evening. So this was actually last Thursday. So this happened. The execution was carried out on Thursday evening of last week. So he was being held in the Florida Department of Corrections. They announced that Glenn Rogers, who was 62, was executed by lethal injection at 6:16 p.m. Rogers, who was 62, a self-proclaimed serial killer who once told law enforcement officials he had killed 70 women. He was dubbed the Casanova killer because he had a habit of meeting women in local bars, charming them, and getting them into his car before attacking. So basically, it looks like Rogers was sentenced in 94 from the death of Tina Marie Gibbs. So a jury sentenced Rogers to death back in 1997 after convicting him of first-degree murder, armed robbery, and grand theft of a motor vehicle following the death of 34-year-old Tina Marie Gibbs. Roger attempted to overturn his guilty verdict 3 times but was unsuccessful. According to a motion filed by the prosecution, Rogers met Gibbs at a bar in Tampa and convinced her to drive him home. She told her friends she would return in 15 minutes, but never returned. Gibbs, who was a mother of 2, failed to meet her mom that evening and show up for work the next morning, according to the motion obtained by People magazine. Her lifeless body was discovered a few days later in a Tampa motel room rented by Rogers, according to this motion. Gibbs was found laying on her back in the bathtub. She was clothed, wearing a damp t-shirt, underwear, and socks. On the bathroom floor, authorities found a damp pile of clothes and blood-stained towels. Authorities noted Gibbs had been stabbed to death, but that there was evidence of defensive wounds, the motion also reads. They also noted the ring and watch belonged to Gibbs were missing, along with her car, which Rogers was driving a week later when he was arrested in Kentucky. Now, Rogers received a second death sentence in 1999 for the murder of Sandra Gallagher. Rogers also had claimed he had killed 70 women. His brother also claims that Roger also killed Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. While in custody, Roger also claimed to be responsible for the murder of 70 women. Then years later, his brother said Rogers claimed to be responsible for the 1994 murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. And this was according to a 2012 documentary. A spokesperson for the Los Angeles Police Department dismissed that claim and was confident someone else was responsible for those deaths. I'm glad that they cleared that up. So he was signed into a death warrant on April 16th of 2025 after Rogers lost 3 previous appeals in Florida. He is suspected of killing at least 5 people in 5 different states, including Florida, California, Ohio, Mississippi, and Louisiana. Rogers' attorneys argued he was abused as a child and that those memories were only unlocked while after he was sentenced. So he's basically trying to state that, his last ditch effort was basically in regards to quote unquote child abuse that he endured, that he basically hid away in his mind, and using it as an excuse to kill other people, which is never a good excuse in my opinion. He was put to death. I like to report on the death sentence or people that are sitting on death row, because you guys don't really realize that there's so many people sitting on death row that we don't even realize to the full extent of how many people are actually sitting on death row and how long it actually takes to get somebody to that point of going to death row and actually serving their sentence, essentially. So I like to report on those. I do remember the Casanova killer. I don't remember all of it, but I do remember watching a documentary on it. Very interesting stuff. Now, I wanted to just update you guys a little bit on the Diddy trial as well as the Menendez brothers. The Menendez brothers, they have basically lowered their sentence, if you guys have not heard. So they are basically waiting to see what the parole board has to say. Now, if they do say that it's time served, the Menendez brothers could get out as soon as the very next month after the hearing. I did see that the hearing was pushed until June. They were supposed to have it this month, but it was pushed out. So we'll see what happens with that. I'll keep updating you guys. But if you guys didn't hear that, basically they could be getting out very soon on time served, as their sentence they were resentenced essentially, which makes them eligible for parole now. So we'll see what happens in that. Now, as far as the Diddy trial goes, I've been following it, but I haven't been doing much on getting all the information for it. So a few of the high points that have happened: of course, Cassie Ventura took the stand. She was a really huge witness. There's been, to my understanding, 6 witnesses that have taken the stand so far. Now, today, when I drop this episode, there will be Kid Cudi is taking the stand. So be sure you're following me on my TikTok account, Ashtootrippy, where I am updating you as much as I can with all of the high points of the Diddy trial. But a few things that have happened: Cassie, of course, did her thing and was a strong woman and went up there and spoke her truth. We also had Don Richard, who was part of the group from making the band Dandy Kane. And there was also a couple of male escorts, as well as Diddy's ex-assistant, that has also testified. Now, one of the biggest things that was said and that has dropped within the last week of this is when Diddy went to New York to quote unquote turn himself in, they ended up raiding his hotel room and taking him into custody since he was there. And when they raided that hotel room, it was shown that he was expecting to have what he calls his king time, or the freak off time he has. There was numerous bottles of baby oil found in the bathtub. There was numerous different prescription drugs under the name of Frank Black, who is the alias he would go under for also like hotel rooms and prescription drugs and all of this stuff. There was also other substances to use during these freak offs that we have heard in the trial that have been used or were requested by Diddy at some point in time to be used. So it looks like he didn't get to have his quote unquote last hurrah before all of this happened. So that was very interesting and telling to know that up until he was taken to federal prison, he was still participating in these sexual activities. It seems like probably most likely with prostitutes. Seeing as he's on trial with the federal government for racketeering and trafficking, doesn't sound too out of the par, but you would think that maybe he would lay low a little bit after having homes raided and all of that stuff. I think he may have also thought he wasn't going to be in jail for too long, but then the judge didn't offer him bail for how many times, four different requests he made. I don't think that was something that he thought was in his cards, to stay in prison the whole time until his trial and even after that. It's amazing to think that this has been years and years in the making, and I think that his defense is using this as a quote unquote kink that he has, but this is much more. This borderlines not only domestic violence abuse, but also abuse in general. Like there's been photos that have come out in the trial about Cassie's bruises, the violence she endured at his hands, and to think that this was a 19-year-old girl that met him and had aspirations of being in the music industry and being famous, and meeting somebody really famous and then, you know, falling in love with them and thinking that they have the best intentions for you when they don't. So very telling. I'll try to keep you guys as updated as possible. Like I said, go follow my TikTok page, Ashtootrippy, and I post a lot of updates on most of what we talked about today and other stuff as well. We talk about the same things we talk about here: crime, conspiracy, and the truth behind the gossip, because sometimes those lines are a little blurred, and that's where I got it from. So if you guys want to see the OG version of blurred lines, that is on my TikTok page, Ashtootrippy. Also, don't forget that we do have a page for the podcast as well, Blurred Lines podcast. You can search it on TikTok, find that. I am still working on possibly posting an Instagram for Blurred Lines. I think it would be really cool for conversations and things like that. So just stay open to that. I'll be posting about it if I do go that route. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed our updates podcast, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. And remember to always follow your intuition. Remember, do things with a kind heart, and also just be a good human. Like, literally be a good human. Don't spread misinformation. Let's bring awareness to things that need to be brought awareness to, and leave some of the gossip behind, because the ones that don't blur the lines are just useless facts in my opinion. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast, and if you guys are listening over on my YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and turn on those notifications so you know when I drop any new videos here. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Stay positive, stay awesome, and we'll talk about it next time. Bye guys.